could I ask our three panellists to take a seat, please? So what was the deal? When, at the end of October was PAX Australia, preceded by a Unite conference for Unity developers and preceded by a Game Connect Asia Pacific, which is effectively the Game Developers Association of Australia's annual games conference. So, these good folk attended, as did others. Who else in the room went over to Australia for any of those events as well? Yeah, cool. Tough luck. You can share your experiences a little bit. We're going to ask these guys. Of course, you guys did because you were part of Team Frogshark, which is Alexey event. So Alexey in the bright orange shirt. Stand up if you also own a bright orange shirt. I'll be wearing it. So that's Team Frogshark who makes Sortie, which you can see outside. So welcome Alexey. Bill Borman spoke a few months back from his experiences with Kickstarter, is making a action car combat customizable collectible combat game called Scraps. Yep. Scrapsgame.com.
Thank you. And
Joe Chang from eyemobi is making a procedurally generated horror game called Phantasmal. Phantasmal.com? No?
.co.nz. Yep. Okay. Pretty close.
So, okay, so leap in, whoever answers this question first. So why is PAX and GCAP a big deal? Why was it worth it from your point of view?
Okay. I think the first thing that pops to my mind is that it's a really, really awesome networking activity. I mean, here in the room we've probably got about 100 or so people, and you can multiply that by 10 when you go over to Australia. So from a networking perspective, you get to meet a ton of people, other developers, press, notable indies, like for us there was Rami Ismail showed up, the guy who made The Room, can't remember what his name is, Siobhan Reddy from, what was the company name? But they made Little Big Planet. Media Molecule, yeah. So it had a lot of really notable, Ron Gilbert showed up as well. So, yeah.
Whoa. Ken Wong, Monument Valley.
Huh?
Ken Wong, Monument Valley.
Yeah, if you guys know mobile games, so.
It's a big event over there now as well. Like last year they were at the showgrounds, but this year they're at the convention centre. And like if you've been to the Melbourne Convention Centre, it takes up a couple of blocks of space basically.
It takes 10 minutes to walk from one end to the other.
Yeah, so
massive.
A lot of people.
Roughly how many consumers, punters came to PAX over the 4 days?
I actually don't know what the
it felt like 1 million, but it's probably like I'd say thousands. What do you guys reckon? I think how many were last year?
It was bigger than Digital Nations.
Oh yeah,
well,
it was
Digital
just
Nations as well.
crazy,
7 to 10k for like Armageddon is 30,000. I think they
was
say.
it that many for the Armageddon? Okay, so probably.
I mean, who went to Armageddon? I reckon it was 30,000 there on Saturday afternoon. But no, over the whole day. So PAX would have been 100,000, 150,000,
something like that. Yeah.
Yep. Someone Google. Free pizza to the person who can Google and find out what the attendance figures for PAX Australia were.
Before the end of the session.
Okay. And so that's the consumer side of it though. Was there like gaming industry stuff if you were one of these exclusive game developers? Or was that GCAP and Unite in the days beforehand?
If there was, I wasn't invited to it.
What do you mean?
So did either of you go to GCAP or Unite as well as PAX?
Oh yeah, I went to we went to everything.
These guys
we went to everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and every one of those events basically has an after party sponsored by Google or Microsoft or whoever. We had after GCAP. It was epic, and all the developers and all the press, they all go and converge in this space, and you're basically free to come and talk to anyone and make connections and make friends. It's a really valuable thing.
Yeah, it's a good point. There are tons of after parties and industry party things going on. Yeah.
I think those things are quite good because when you're at GCAP and Unite and the other stuff, people are in their sort of professional mode, whereas when you go to these sort of piss-ups, like everyone's drunk and wasted, so you can just sort of talk about anything, and you can probably create a connection a lot easier in those sort of personal settings as well. So, I mean, I'm saying that I probably only went to one party. This guy went to all of them.
So 5 or 6. You were kind of saying earlier that really one of the benefits of going, we'll talk about other benefits in a while, was networking. Now, networking sounds like a pretty woolly thing. If I write a business plan to my business partner or my wife and say, "Hi, I'd like to go somewhere for networking," will get turned down. So, well, what's the value of networking? Or do you have an example or do like a connection or a lead you've got that actually matters? Yeah, what kind of leads or networks can you actually get out of going to something like PAX?
For me personally, there were tons of them. So one of them is with other indies, so you get to talk to other people, and there are possible alliances that you can make out of that. But then at PAX specifically, there were some probably vendors and things that showed up. So we had people from Microsoft, Sony, even Oculus come over and talk to us. And one really good example is with Microsoft. So there was a guy who was the director of the ID program, the indie developer program, who came and talked to a few of us and said, "Hey, would you like to be part of this program?"
So Chris had travelled over from Seattle.
Redmond, yeah.
So industry people are basically like scouting around, just talking to everyone, which is, it's nice just being there so you can be there for them.
Yeah.
And so what was your story with Chris from...
So that was a funny one. He's such a kind of a subtle guy. I mean, he showed up and basically he was watching Jeff, the other guy that I worked with, for about 10 minutes, very patiently, not saying a thing. He wasn't dressed in his suit or anything. And after 10 minutes he goes, "Jeff, did you make this game?" And Jeff said, "Oh no, you better talk to Joe about some specific stuff." So he came over and I was talking to someone else, and I was like rambling on for 10 minutes, getting really excited about the game. And he was just patiently waiting for 10 minutes. And then after they left, I turned around and said, "Oh, hi, I'm Joe," and so forth. And he said, "Oh, hi, I'm Chris from Microsoft. Would you like to join the Xbox program?" And I was like, "Yes." So kind of, I guess my key takeaway from that is, first of all, that's part of the networking side. There are opportunities from that. I mean, I'm going down that track now, which I wouldn't have had that opportunity had I not gone along to PAX. And the other thing to take away is you can never be like rude or arrogant or anything. You always have to be on the ball in terms of being polite and approachable and stuff like that. So that was another thing.
You never know who's going
to never know who's going to show up.
Microsoft.
Yeah, and they may not say anything either. So
there's one thing at PAX where everyone has a badge of some sort, and like if you're an exhibitor, you have an exhibitor badge. If you're media, you have a media badge. So you kind of can know when someone's maybe someone special, but at the same time, like media covers everything from huge networks to like a random YouTuber who got a pass. And then like the Xbox guy or whatever, I assume he probably didn't even have a media pass. He was just an exhibitor.
Yeah, just casually.
So you just got to be nice to everyone.
Yeah. Alexey, do you have anything to add around the value of networking or any examples you have?
Yeah, well, the very fact that we're already talking to Xbox and Sony about Suri and have met publishers that have approached us with all these different propositions, and us talking to them, and then us talking to the other indies about them and sort of inquiring what's the best strategy and what's their experience. It's all of those things have already happened to us thanks to PAX and thanks to being to all those events. And
so it really sounds like publishers ain't that scary, or it sounds like publishers are, as you started to say earlier, Bill, like actively out there looking for the next cool project.
Well, they are, because that's their business, right? So they still want your game and stuff like that. So we don't really know what's the best way. We're still kind of losing sleep over it right now. But
I guess the other thing though is because your game is public and everyone can see it and even play with it, but a lot of these potential publishers, if you weren't there and they didn't see crowds, like with Sorty and Scraps, there was constant crowds of people. So if you had like no one, they'd probably go, "Okay, that's a bit of a crap game." But it's because there were so many people there and proving that these were really great games. That was kind of a test in a sense.
Because you guys were all exhibiting on the Indie Pavilion. Is that right? So, and so was the Indie Pavilion actually like? Because obviously you're competing against Call of Duty and all the other AAA titles and stuff. Was the Indie Pavilion popular?
It was very popular. I think it's not really true to say that we're competing with the Call of Duty and the little armored tank with the Battlefield logo on it. Because people would come to Indie Pavilion and they would say like, "Oh, the line's over there to see like Assassin's Creed or whatever they will see next week on YouTube anyway," and they just come there to play indie games and sort of have. Some people have made comments about that.
I mean, some of it is that like there's a huge line at Battlefield or something, so people are like, "Oh, go and see what else there is." But yeah, I mean, we had heavy traffic in the Indie Pavilion as well as everywhere else. There was heavy traffic everywhere.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that foot traffic then. So I think when I was talking to some of you guys before you went over there, you were kind of like, "Cool, we're going to get this big audience." So what's it like manning the pavilion, like the logistics of it, and then did it actually make a difference?
It's like
You know, did you get awesome downloads?
You're like killing
and
yourself
social
after day
media love and sign-ups
It
and
definitely
Kickstarter money as a result. But first, let's talk about the logistics. Just
It definitely makes a difference. Like there was 3 of us, and constantly at the booth, we had 2 machines running. Obviously, we have a 4-player co-op game, so there were 4 people on each machine playing it at all times. So there would be 8 people engaged all at once, and more people sort of waiting behind, and there was always a crowd. And yeah, we basically had how many sign-ups on the newsletter, and because we don't really have sort of a download yet, but we can already sort of collect the.
Sorry? 400. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and yeah, we kind of lucked out on the placement because we were in this sort of intersection of all the foot traffic, especially coming from the giant League of Legends booth across the road.
They were really annoying too.
They were pretty
so
loud.
here.
But yeah, no, it matters a lot. And manning the booth, I think we managed pretty well with 3 people, but it's.
And so, Bill, were you one person or
2
one
people.
person in support?
2 people. We had 3 screens set up in LAN. Yeah, it was manageable, but it would be good to have 3 people, I think. So one person can kind of always be out doing something else. You can have 2 people manning the booth.
It's kind of,
and why is that important? Because you're missing out on League of Legends, or you need sleep, or your feet are aching?
Yeah, it's just good to have someone who doesn't, who gets to have a break. And if you're there all day, trying to keep ahead of everything, talk to everyone.
Because how many days was the stand banned for?
3.
3 days on your feet for 8 or 12 hours.
And constantly talking as well. I mean,
also,
I was at the point where, I had another part of the networking time that back in was with the press. They would ask us for a lot of interviews. So I think I had about 10 or between 10 to 12.
there's like all these random videos.
All these random videos. People would be taking videos, or there'd be a verbal one. But I mean, after about 12 o'clock, like I'm just in this autopilot, and it'd be like, I'm just saying the stuff. I have no idea what I just said.
That's
I was just a complete zombie.
That's
basically.
really good though, because by day 2 already you don't want to say a word, and you really sort of shorten the pitch, the game pitch, and you refine it, and you start talking about your game in a more concise and sort of.
But I'd like to remember what I said, because I don't know if I said anything relevant.
Anything about your game? Has anything about your games changed after going to PAX? Have you come away with new ideas, thinking based on the audience reaction, I'm going to change it this way, or the pitch for it is now different? Have you changed anything? Who's changed anything about their game?
I was kind of like, sometimes people give interesting suggestions that I'm not necessarily going to implement, but it's always good to hear people's ideas. Like a lot of the time people do have good ideas. It's not just like people demanding, become an MMO or something. It's good for finding bugs as well, having lots of people playing your games.
Just testing.
So definitely found a few of those.
What was your worst embarrassing public bug? Anyone?
I could probably answer that. There's only one that would need a restart of the game, and like the bug itself isn't anything really amazing. Like it's just when you're on the build screen, somehow people would get into a state where they'd picked up a part and they couldn't drop it, so the game was kind of stuck because you were just holding a part. And that happened probably like 3 times a day, which isn't that bad considering the amount of people playing, but I still don't know how that happened. I can't reproduce it, so I don't know how I'm going to fix that. But the annoying thing was because they're all in LAN, and because the multiplayer doesn't have like drop in and leave set up properly, I have to restart all of them to fix it. So yeah, that was annoying.
For us it would be the computer. One of our machines was broken down the first day we came after the setup the night before. We come to PAX half an hour before it starts, and one of the computers is not starting. So it kind of like for 3 hours or so we didn't have as much people playing as we could have.
So what's one thing you would do differently next year, or steal from one of the other exhibitors? One idea from each of you. So Joe, what's one thing you'd do differently
I think there's a few things I do differently, but the key thing I think.
Can we say several things?
If you can find a way to put it into one sentence.
Roll it in once. Oh man, it's going to take me a sentence. Basically, I think if you guys ever decide to do it, and I highly recommend it just for a number of reasons. But the key thing is before you walk in there, have firm objectives of what you want out of it. Like, do you want people to sign up for your mailing list? Do you want people to test your game and all that kind of stuff? I mean, we kind of, and I'm saying this as someone who didn't do that properly. So by the time we walked away, I was like, oh damn, we should have probably got a few more, our mailing list kind of process sorted out. So kind of get those things agreed upon and thought out before you walk in there, I think is the key thing for me.
Yeah, first of all, what he said, like, yes, you want to be like, what's your call to action or whatever, and like what you really want people to do. Whatever you're bring heaps of it, because I thought I brought like enough cards and I had a couple of hundred of them, and that was nothing. No. You want like 1,000 of whatever you have.
Cards last
easily, yeah.
Oh, day one.
yeah.
I think I would try and do. It's you really want something, unless you've got a game that's really unique, like Expand was really unique, and everyone was talking about Expand, because you should look it up, by the way, it's good. But Expand was really unique, and people were just talking about it as a game. But unless your game's super interesting, you want something that people will talk about or that they'll remember. So like Sorty had really cool badges that were laser cut wood.
Yes.
So everyone's like tweeting about them and stuff, which for a start just gets your game out there a bit more. And you want something like that. I thought Tearaway's thing, where they had the hats, was quite clever. Yeah,
the leaf thing?
The Tearaway booth gave out paper hats with little leaves on them that said like Tearaway. So everyone's getting their free hats, but then they're walking around PAX wearing the hats. So everyone's like, at least where did they come from? And they'll go to the Tearaway booth. So that's good marketing for when you're actually at the venue as well.
Alexey?
Yeah, I think we went in with quite sort of clear objectives, and we fulfilled a lot of things we wanted. So for us, I think it was more logistical stuff. Like the place that we got was really far away from the convention, and just optimizing the whole experience, including the drive time from your hotel room to the place, and then how much time do you need to set up, how much time you're there. How much time do you need to sleep realistically, and counter in all the time you need to go eat and meet people and have the parties and all that stuff.
So presumably going, would it cost you because of flights and all the preparation stuff like $5,000 or $10,000 probably. I won't ask for the specifics, but would you have been better off just putting that money on once you launch, buying 5,000-10,000 and first downloads in your first week so you can chart or something? Would you have been better off spending off that money doing digital marketing?
I don't think any type of digital marketing will replace what you get out of this sort of experience.
Personal, right?
It's personal, and you get the time to actually connect with your audience directly. So
that's a really good point. I mean, with a lot of the people that came through, there were certain ones that were really, really, like they actually really got our game and they were really excited about it. So those kinds of people are kind of your influencers potentially, who will go out and go, oh, I played this really, really cool game, and they'll tell all their friends about it. So there's those guys, and then there's also press. So if you get that personal connection with them, they kind of like you and think, oh, this guy's kind of an alright guy, then they're probably more likely to actually go and do something about it, like write an article or do an interview or something like that as well. So I think the personal stuff is important.
It's not getting a big bang, awesome piece of coverage necessarily at PAX, but establishing a relationship with them.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell. I mean, especially when your game's not released, so you can't just directly look at like increased sales versus how much you spent. But even then, like to be honest, you probably aren't going to get as much as you spend back in direct sales. But maybe you will eventually through the extra contacts you made and all that sort of thing. So
yeah. But in terms of you do have a playable demo download, don't you?
I have a demo, yeah. I haven't released the full game yet.
Did you get a spike in downloads as a result?
I got some extra traffic, but not like a huge, crazy amount. And I got like a couple of articles by press and that sort of thing. But yeah, it wasn't huge to be honest.
Okay, interesting. Hey, so any questions from the floor for another 5 or so minutes? Who wants to pick these guys' brains? Is it worth it or not?
I guess I have a question about like just the indie pavilion. Were mostly mobile games, or
it's a bit of a mix.
I'd say mostly just desktop or console games.
Yeah, there was mobile stuff there, but it wouldn't have been the majority.
Right.
Yeah.
What would you say the average age demographic would be at PAX in Melbourne?
It's older, definitely older.
Definitely older. There's
Like 16 and above. Was there like an age limit? It seemed to be.
It's funny because we have quite a lot of kids playing.
Did you?
It's great.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't as many. I don't remember seeing any kids, so it would be sort of young
I
adults.
think they were playing Scratch.
Bill had all of them.
I mean, when I say kids, I mean like 12-year-olds kind of thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
But
yeah.
Yeah, there were, I don't know, I mean, you're probably right, the average age would be like 20s.
Yeah. I mean,
It's like similarly, locally, there's kind of the difference between Armageddon as younger
Oh, yeah.
audience versus Digital Nations as an older audience. Another question?
So, have you heard any of like the sort of success stories that have come out of involvement with PAX? Like, when you game goes to PAX and you get this amazing whatever it is, and it opens up all these windows. Like, sort of like, have there been any of those sort of like big successes that have come out of PAX that you know of?
Probably come back in
next
3
year.
or so months, and we'll be able to answer your question. Yeah.
There was one game called Crawl, right? That
Yeah.
got heaps of awards and stuff, and I think were they there last year as well? I think they were.
I'm not sure, but
They seem to be doing really well. Like, I mean, I don't know how many sales they've got, but they've got. I looked it up in Steam, and they've got a couple of thousand reviews,
I think
which
it's
probably means a
what you
lot.
also gotta sort of know that Australian game developer scene is much bigger and much more intertwined. They have a place called Arcade.
Yeah.
It's like a business incubator type sort of building where it's only game developers and IGDA and publishers. They're all in one building. They all know each other, and they're all sort of pushing and moving all of that forward. And it's something we're hoping to set up here, right?
There's two things from there. One is scale, just simply because they got way more people, so that means more developers and whatnot. But the state of Victoria is really impressive as well. So they put forward a lot of support for the indie scene. So that's money and other stuff, non-financial support as well. So the government is really supportive of indie developers over there.
As well as a lot of them are come out of all the Australian sort of AAA companies that crumbled recently.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So there's a lot of experienced people there.
Yeah, we didn't have so many places here to collapse.
Yeah, not yet.
So say that again. Didn't have.
Oh, there's not enough companies to collapse over here.
Like we don't have many big games companies here, so we haven't got as many resources.
You're absolutely right. That's the story of the New Zealand industry. Is we've only had upside because we just went digital, and only went up. Australia had a whole bunch of middle tier studios who did like work for hire console projects, and of course what happened in the console space, there were fewer but larger blockbusters, and then DLC, so they all collapsed. And actually the Australian industry, in my view, from talking to various people, is actually a few years behind New Zealand when it comes to digital distribution and free to play. And per capita, there are more game developers in New Zealand than there are in Australia. There's more game developers in New Zealand than the United Kingdom per capita as well.
It's so funny how we always win on like per capita
Yeah.
stuff.
Because there's nobody here.
It just takes one game loft. What was the other comparison? A comment someone made to me is they didn't think there was much business content at GCAP this year. And there were a few indies, and there seems to be, particularly in Melbourne, a bunch of indies who are all into indie art games, and just if we make an awesome game, it will succeed. Apparently someone reported the guy from The Room, which was like, one of the top iPhone games of last year, said, we don't know how it happened. We just got featured by Apple and we got rich.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, but
man, so much of it is still
you can't
just
write
like
a business plan around that. You're not going to attract an investor around that.
there's always a lot of luck involved.
Yeah, GCAP was very polarizing in that sense. There was a lot of the amazing indie art, games or art and all those sort of docs, and then you got your free-to-play monetization and sort of business. And I guess they don't necessarily see eye to eye, but they all go party afterwards.
Very good. Any burning last questions? One last burning question from the audience. Whose hand's more burning?
Yeah.
At the start of the room first.
You go.
Go at the same time. Answer money.
Politeness.
I just don't want to take the chance. Anyway, congrats guys, I was at PAX, so it was awesome to see you guys there. I just want to ask, what was the experience of actually signing up to go to PAX like? Like what did you have to do and what was it like, and how far back did you have to like apply and stuff?
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is, here's how you should do it.
And how's that we did?
So at PAX they have two different things. They have three. They have the indie. I'll try to make this fast. They have the indie pavilion. They have the indie showcase, and then they have another indie section for like international indies or people that want a bigger space. Because the other two are Australia and New Zealand only. So what you want to do is apply for the indie pavilion, because that's the one that you normally pay for. That's the standard one. But then the showcase is a competition where they'll give 10 people like a free spot and a slightly better booth. So oh yeah, what do you want to say?
I was going to say that actually, I think the standard indie booths were better than the indie showcase because they were bigger, you had more space.
Theoretically, the other ones are meant to be better, but yeah.
But they weren't.
They do give you a free screen.
They do have walls to mount more things on.
But yeah, what you actually want to do is apply to the paid one, then enter the competition. If you win the competition, they'll refund what you paid for the paid one. And if you don't win the competition, you got an early, so you'll get your spot. Win-win.
Did all three of you enter the Indie Showcase competition?
I didn't even know
about it.
Yeah, no one gave us the information.
I think so. Here's the moral. It was in the NZGDA email newsletter. And during meetups earlier in the year, I said check out PAX. I name dropped it.
Also, one of the requirements is that you have to be a registered company. You can't just be a guy making a game applying for it.
You can be a sole trader though, because they let me through as a sole trader.
Okay.
So you don't actually have to be a registered company.
But then he's risking a lot by not being a limited liability.
So the organisers of PAX told me they were disappointed there were not more New Zealand entries. They specifically made it Australia and New Zealand to give you guys the chance.
I actually thought, because I eventually knew about it. I don't know if I knew about it at the start, but like I thought sort of if I didn't apply early to get into the main one, then I might not get it. And once I'd applied to that, I sort of thought I was like stuck with that. Whereas actually, someone else told me later they'd just refund you if you win the competition.
Oh, okay.
I didn't realise I could like
do both.
Hey, now a question from the centre of the room.
I was just going to ask, what stage of development do you think your game should be in to go to PAX this time? Like
bring it
early
here and see the response.
Hmm?
I think bring it here and see the response, and if people like it, it's ready to at least be played by people.
Yeah, so as early as it's...
As early as it's playable.
Okay.
I guess like the PAX crowd's fairly tolerant of unfinished stuff. Like they know that it's not all going to be released polished games. At the same time, I guess they might be a bit less tolerant than like the game dev meetup people are.
There were a bunch of games that were basically like Ludum Dare level.
Oh, well,
like real simple, real short.
Did they get any traffic? I mean, I saw a couple on the corners and there was like no one playing them at all.
It depends.
A couple of times, yeah.
I don't know, I just haven't had a chance to.
Oh, I guess.
And on that note, obviously the whole reason we have the big screens provided outside is for people to bring along their own projects and get feedback at evenings like this as well. And these three teams in particular have been people who have taken advantage of that play testing opportunity. So if you ever want to do that, just drop Dean Kenobi or myself a line and we'll reserve big screens for you.
Just one comment on screens. At PAX, it's really good. This will be quick. It's really good to have a big screen. Like people will just see a game on a screen and they'll come and play it. It's really hard to get a big screen if you're coming from New Zealand, obviously.
We had to buy 2 screens and
they bought screens.
Yeah,
and yeah, it's good.
The vendor rips you off. So if you want like a normal monitor, they'll charge you like $200 a day or something stupid like that.
How much for a power cord?
To check your power cord, like they check every connection is $10, and they told us that on the cable. So it cost me like $100.
Compliance.
And it's worse for PAX Prime and PAX East in the States as well.
They didn't even come back and check it. That's fine. So I mean, we had this cable that failed the certification. I don't know. Probably. Oh no!
Joe admitted earlier he's still been paying $5 for pizza for the last.
Damn you, Alexey!
Okay, thank you very much. A big round of applause for Joe. Their games will be demoed on the big screen outside.